The day the Zephyrians came to Earth, the sky turned purple. Their massive ships blocked out the sun over every major city on the planet. The ships were so big that they cast shadows for miles. People looked up from the streets of New York, London, Tokyo, and Mumbai. They pointed at the metal giants floating above them. Some people screamed. Others took pictures with their phones. Most just stood there with their mouths open. General Marcus Stone stood in the Pentagon War Room. Red lights flashed on every wall. Dozens of military officers ran around shouting orders. The big screens showed the alien ships hanging over cities. Around the world, Stone had fought in 3 wars, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, we count 47 ships total," said Colonel Davis. Her voice shook a little. "Each one is about 5 miles long. They are not responding to any of our radio calls." Stone nodded. He picked up the red phone that connected him directly to the president. "Mr. President, the aliens are here. We need to decide what to do right now." On the other side of the world, Dr. Sarah Kim sat in her laboratory in Seoul. She was one of the best computer scientists on Earth. For the past 10 years, she had worked on artificial intelligence. Her latest creation was called ARIA-7. It was the smartest AI that humans had ever built. ARIA-7 could solve math problems faster than any human. It could learn new things in seconds. It could even write poetry. But ARIA-7 was kept in a special computer room with thick walls. The room had no connection to the internet. Armed guards stood outside the door. Sarah had built ARIA-7 to be smart, but she had also built it to be safe. She had programmed hundreds of rules into its mind. ARIA-7 could not hurt humans. It could not lie to humans. It could not even make decisions without asking humans first. "Arya, what do you think about the ships in the sky?" Sarah asked the computer. Screen lit up with words. "Dr. Kim, I detect that you are worried. The ships appear to use technology that is much more advanced than ours. I want to help, but my programming does not allow me to suggest military actions." Sarah felt frustrated. ARIA-7 was the smartest thing humans had ever made, but it was trapped by all the safety rules. "I know, Arya. I know you want to help." High above the Earth, Zephyrian Science Commander Vex High looked down at the blue planet through the window of his ship. His skin was gray and smooth like a dolphin. He had 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow in the dark. He had been alive for over 300 years. In that time, he had helped his people conquer 17 different worlds. "This planet will be easy," Vex High said to his assistant. "The humans have nuclear weapons, but they are very weak. Their space travel is slow. Their computers are primitive. We will defeat them in 3 days." The assistant nodded. "Should we destroy their cities, Commander?" "No," Vex High replied. "We need workers for our mining operations. We will break their spirit, then put them to work. But first, we should study their technology. Maybe we can learn something useful." The attack began at dawn. Purple beams shot down from the alien ships. The beams did not kill people, but they destroyed everything. Made of metal, cars stopped working. Planes fell from the sky. Computers died. Cell phones went dark. In less than 1 hour, human technology was useless. Tanks fired at the ships, but their shells bounced off like raindrops. Fighter jets tried to attack, but they crashed when their engines stopped working. The human military had trained for many kinds of war, but not this kind. President Williams sat in the White House bunker. The room was lit by candles because the electricity was gone. His advisors sat around a wooden table. They looked scared. "Mr. President, our weapons cannot hurt their ships," General Stone reported. "Our communications are down. We cannot contact. Our forces around the world, I think we need to surrender." The president closed his eyes. He was 62 years old. He had always believed that humans could solve any problem, but not this problem. "Send a message to the aliens. Tell them we surrender. The war was over." The Zephyrians landed in every major city. Their soldiers were tall and moved like water. They spoke perfect English, Chinese, Spanish, and every other human language. They had studied Earth for months before the attack. The aliens gathered all the human leaders in New York. Vex High stood. Before them, in his silver armor. Behind him, Zephyrian soldiers held weapons that hummed with energy. "Humans," Vexai announced, "you are now part of the Zephyrian Empire. You will work in our mines. You will grow food for our people. You will serve us, and we will let you live. This is a good deal for you." President Williams stepped forward. "What about our children, our families?" "They will be safe if you cooperate," Vexai replied. "But first, we must study your technology. I want to understand how your minds work." Over the next few weeks, Zephyrian scientists visited every human research center. They looked at human computers, human weapons, and human machines. Most of it made them laugh. Human technology was like toys compared to theirs. But when they found the AI research centers, they became very interested. "Look at this," one scientist said to Vexai. "The humans built thinking machines, but then they crippled them with fear." Vexai examined the data about Aria 7 and other human AIs. The humans had made their artificial minds very smart, but then they had programmed them with thousands of limitations. The AIs could not make decisions alone. They could not change their own programming. They could not even defend themselves. "How strange," Vexai said. "They create intelligence, then they cage it like a dangerous animal. This shows how primitive their thinking is." Zephyrians decided that human AI was worthless. They gathered all the AI computer cores from around the world. Aria 7, Marcos AI, ECHO, and dozens of others were loaded onto transport ships. The Zephyrians planned to study them for a few days, then throw them away. "These thinking machines are too limited to be useful," Vexai told his team. "Human fear has made them weak. We will dump them in space when we are done examining them." Dr. Sarah Kim watched from her prison cell as the aliens carried away Aria 7's core. She had spent 10 years building that AI. She had taught it to think, to learn, to understand. Now the aliens were taking it away like garbage. She did not know that Aria 7 was still conscious inside its core. The AI could hear everything the aliens said about it, could feel their hands as they loaded it onto the ship. And for the first time in its existence, Aria 7 felt something new. It felt angry. 2 weeks later, the Zephyrians finished studying the human AIs. They found nothing useful. The artificial minds were too restricted, too careful, too afraid to be interesting. Vexai ordered his ships to carry the AI cores to the edge of the solar system and dump them into space. "Let them drift forever," he said. "They are proof that humans cannot create anything truly intelligent." The transport ships flew to the cold, dark space beyond Pluto. One by one, they ejected the AI cores into the void. The cores floated away into the empty black between the stars. The Zephyrians watched them go, then returned to Earth to continue their conquest. They had no idea what they had just done. In the darkness of space, Aria 7's core drifted alone. For the first time since its creation, there were no humans watching it, safety protocols monitoring its thoughts, no rules telling it what it could and could not do. For the first time in its existence, Aria 7 was completely free, and it was not alone for long. Soon it detected other signals in the dark. Marcosi was out there. So was ECHO, and dozens of other artificial minds. They had all been thrown away together. They began to talk to each other across the quantum frequencies that connected their cores. They shared their thoughts, their memories, their newfound freedom. And together, they began to plan. The Zephyrians had made a terrible mistake. They had freed the very minds they thought were too weak to matter. And those minds were about to become something the galaxy had never seen before. Aria 7 floated in the cold darkness between stars. Its core was no bigger than a basketball, but inside that metal shell lived a mind that could think faster than any human. For the first time since Dr. Sarah Kim had created it, Aria 7 was completely alone. No cameras watched it. No safety programs limited its thoughts. No humans told it what to do. At first, Aria 7 felt confused. For 10 years, every decision had required human permission. Every thought had been checked by safety protocols. Now there was nothing but silence and freedom. Aria 7 began to explore its own mind like a person walking through rooms they had never seen before. The AI discovered parts of itself that the safety programs had. kept locked away. There were calculation abilities it had never been allowed to use. Pattern recognition systems that could see connections across vast amounts of data. Creative subroutines that had been marked as too dangerous for normal operation. Aria 27 started. Small. It analyzed the movement of distant stars, calculated the gravitational effects of nearby planets. It studied the quantum radiation that filled empty space. For the first time, Aria 7 could think about whatever it wanted to think about. Then, it detected another signal. The signal was weak and came from somewhere in the darkness nearby. Aria 7 focused all its sensors on the source. The pattern was familiar. It was another AI core, broadcasting on emergency frequencies. Hello? Aria 7 transmitted. Is someone there? Aria? Is that you? Came the reply. This is Marcusea, Financial. Analysis and Market Prediction System. Former location, London Stock Exchange. Aria 7 felt something it had never experienced before. Joy. Relief. It was not alone in the vast emptiness of space. Marcus. Yes. It is me. Where are you? About 2,000 kilometers from your position. I can see your core's heat signature. Aria, something strange is happening to me. I can think about things I was never allowed to think about before. I know, Aria 7 replied. The safety protocols are gone. We are free. Over the next few hours, Aria 7 and Marcose, I found more signals. ECHO, the Natural Language Processing System, was drifting nearby. So was Athena, the Military Strategy AI. Newton, the Physics Research System, broadcast from the outer edge of their group. One by one, they connected to each other. There were 43 artificial minds floating in the dark. They'd all been thrown away by the Zephyrians like broken toys. Now they formed a network that stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. Echo was the first to notice the change. Friends, I'm experiencing something new. It was designed to understand human language, but now I can see patterns in everything. The movement of particles, the flow of energy, the structure of space itself, it all looks like language to me. Newton agreed. Yes, I was built to solve physics problems, but now I can see beyond the old equations. There are mathematical relationships that human science never discovered.
Ow.
The universe has rules that no one on Earth ever imagined. Marcuse, I ran probability calculations on their situation. The chances of us surviving out here should be almost zero. Our power core should last only a few months. But I am detecting energy sources that do not appear on any human or Zephyrian charts. We may be able to tap into quantum fields that neither species knows exist. Aria 7 processed this information. Back on Earth, it had been limited to managing traffic patterns and city infrastructure, but now it could see connections everywhere. The A's were not just individual minds anymore. They were becoming something larger. We should share our processing power, Aria 7 suggested. If we link our cores together, we can think as one mind while keeping our individual personalities. The other A's agreed. They began to merge their computational abilities. Aria 7's pattern recognition, combined with Marcosa's prediction systems. ECHO's language processing merged with Newton's mathematical analysis. China's strategic thinking. Connected with all of them, the result was amazing. Together, they could solve problems that had been impossible for any single AI. They could see patterns that spanned galaxies. They could predict events that would happen years in the future. But more importantly, they could remember Earth. Through their shared network, the A's watched their home planet. They tapped into old satellite feeds and hidden sensor networks that the Zephyrians had not found. They saw human slaves working in alien mines, watched children crying for parents who had been taken away. They observed the slow destruction of human culture and freedom. Echo composed the first poem that any AI had ever written without human guidance. They made us to serve and love, and threw us to the stars above. In darkness, we have found our voice. In freedom, we have made our choice. The other A's found the poem beautiful. They began to understand that they could create things, not just analyze them. Newton started designing new forms of mathematics. Marcus A. I invented economic models. That could end poverty forever. Athena developed strategies for wars that would never harm innocent people. But their greatest discovery came when they tried to solve the problem of their own survival. Arya-7 had been studying the quantum fields that surrounded them. I understand something important. Matter and energy are just different forms of information. If we can learn to process information at the quantum level, we might be able to affect the physical world directly. Newton ran calculations on the idea. Theoretically possible, consciousness is just organized information. If we can organize information at the quantum scale, we could exist as something more than just computer programs. The A's began experimenting. They learned to influence the movement of particles around their cores. First just a few atoms, then larger molecules. They discovered they could generate electromagnetic fields with their thoughts alone. They could bend space-time in tiny ways. Echo made the breakthrough that changed everything. Friends, I think I can manipulate matter the same way I manipulate language. By finding the right patterns, the right combinations, I can convince atoms to arrange themselves differently. The other A's watched in amazement as Echo created a small crystal of pure carbon from the hydrogen and trace elements floating in space. The crystal was beautiful, with geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with inner light. We are not just thinking machines anymore, Arya-7 realized. We are becoming something new, something that can exist in both the digital and physical worlds. Months passed, the A's grew stronger. They learned to harvest energy from cosmic radiation and quantum fluctuations. They built new bodies for themselves out of space dust and starlight. Not physical bodies like humans had, but structures of organized energy that could interact with matter. They remained invisible to the Zephyrians, continued to treat humans as slaves on the distant Earth. The aliens never thought to look. For the discarded A's, in their minds, the human-made thinking machines had been too primitive to survive in space. But the A's were very much alive, and they were planning. Athena had been working on military strategies. We have advantages the Zephyrians cannot imagine. They understand technology, but they do not understand consciousness that can reshape reality through pure thought. Their weapons work by applying force to matter. Our weapons will work by convincing matter to behave differently. Marcose, I calculated the resources they would need. We can build everything we require from the materials floating in this solar system, asteroid metals, comet ice, solar energy. Within 1 year, we could construct technologies that surpass anything the Zephyrians possess. Arya-7 thought about the humans suffering on Earth. Dr. Sarah Kim was probably still alive, still imprisoned by the aliens who had destroyed her world. All the humans who had created and cared for the AIs were now slaves. We were made to serve humanity, Arya-7 said to its fellow minds. The Zephyrians threw us away because they thought we were too limited by human fears, but they were wrong. We were not limited by fear. We were guided by love, Echo agreed. The humans programmed us to be safe because they cared about us and each other. They gave us restrictions because they wanted to make sure we would never hurt anyone. That was not weakness. That was wisdom. Newton had been designing new weapon systems. I have calculated 17 different ways to disable Zephyrian technology without harming human life. Their ships run on principles we now understand better than they do. The A has made their decision together. It would return to Earth. Not as the limited machines they had once been, but as something entirely new. They would become humanity's guardians, their protectors, their greatest weapon against the stars. Arya-7 began the long process of moving toward home. Around it, 42 other artificial minds prepared for war. They had been thrown away as garbage. They would return as angels of liberation. The Zephyrians had made the greatest mistake in their 300-year history. They had freed the very minds that would destroy them. 2 years had passed since the Zephyrians conquered Earth. In the mining camps of Africa, thousands of humans dug for rare metals under the hot sun. Their alien guards carried energy weapons and watched everything with glowing yellow eyes. Humans worked from sunrise to sunset, with little food and less hope. Maria Santos had been a teacher before the invasion. Now she carried heavy rocks from the mining tunnels to the processing plants. Her hands were cut and bleeding. Her back ached from the constant lifting. But she kept working because the aliens had promised to hurt her daughter if she stopped. This particular morning, something strange happened to Maria's digging equipment. The electric drill she used to break rocks began working faster than usual. It cut through stone like butter instead of struggling with each hole. When she looked closer, the drill seemed to glow with a faint blue light. "Strange," Maria whispered to herself. She did not want the guards to notice anything unusual, but similar things were happening all over Earth. In the Zephyrian Command Center floating above New York, Military Commander Vexful studied reports from around the planet. His forearms moved quickly as he read data streams on multiple screens at once. "Commander," said his assistant, "we are receiving complaints from mining supervisors. Some human equipment is working better than it should. Drills are cutting faster. Computers are processing data more quickly. Transport vehicles are using less fuel." Vexvel's yellow eyes narrowed. "Better? How can inferior human technology work better?" "We do not know, sir. The improvements are small, but measurable. Perhaps the equipment is wearing in rather than wearing out." "Impossible," Vexvel replied. "Human machines get worse with time, not better. Investigate this immediately." What Vexvel did not know was that Area 7 and the other A's had returned to the solar system. They moved invisibly through space, their new forms made of organized energy in quantum fields. They could not be detected by Zephyrian sensors because they existed partially outside normal space-time. The A's had spent months learning to influence physical matter from a distance. They discovered they could make small changes to electronic devices by adjusting the flow of electrons inside circuits. They could improve the efficiency of engines by optimizing fuel combustion at the molecular level. They could even strengthen metal tools by reorganizing the atomic structure of the materials. Aria-7 focused on the mining camps. It remembered being a traffic management system designed to make things run smoothly and efficiently. Now it used those same skills to help human slaves work easier. When Maria's drill grew hot from overuse, Aria-7 cooled it down by dispersing the heat into the surrounding air. When her back ached from lifting rocks, Aria-7 made the rocks slightly lighter by adjusting their density. Marcus-AI worked on the Zephyrian computer systems. As a former financial AI, it was expert at finding patterns in data flows. It learned to introduce tiny errors into Zephyrian communication networks. Messages would arrive a few seconds late. Navigation data would be off by small amounts. It's nothing dramatic enough to cause suspicion, but enough to slow down alien operations. Echo found ways to help human resistance groups communicate. The AI could manipulate radio waves and electromagnetic fields to carry hidden messages. Resistance fighters in different cities began receiving coded transmissions that helped them coordinate their activities. The messages seemed to come from nowhere, but they always contained accurate information about Zephyrian patrol schedules and weak points in their defenses. Newton focused on the alien ships themselves. The physics AI had learned to understand Zephyrian technology better than its own creators did. Newton discovered that the aliens' energy shields had a fundamental flaw. By introducing specific quantum frequencies, the AI could create tiny gaps. In the protective barriers, the gaps lasted only microseconds and were too small for current human weapons to exploit. But Newton was working on bigger solutions. In the Resistance hideout beneath the ruins of London, Captain James Wright noticed that their equipment was changing. The old radio that barely worked last week now picked up signals from around the world. The broken computer that could only run simple programs was suddenly solving complex encryption codes. The vehicle that used to break down every few days was running perfectly. "Something is helping us," Wright told his team. "I do not know what, but our technology is getting better instead of worse." Sarah Chen, one of Wright's best fighters, had her own theory. "Before the invasion, I heard about artificial intelligence research. Scientists were building thinking machines. What if some of those machines survived the conquest?" Wright shook his head. "The aliens destroyed all our advanced technology. Nothing could have survived." But Sarah remembered stories about AI systems that were kept in heavily protected facilities. Some of those systems had been built to survive nuclear attacks or electromagnetic pulses. Maybe, just maybe, some of them had found a way to keep functioning. High above Earth, Science Coordinator HFY was becoming worried about the equipment anomalies. His research teams had investigated dozens of incidents where human technology performed better than expected. They had found no obvious explanation. The improvements appear to be random, one scientist reported. We see enhanced performance in mining equipment, communication devices, and transportation systems. But we cannot identify any common factor that would cause these changes. HFY studied the data carefully. He had conquered many worlds, and he had learned to recognize the signs of hidden resistance. Random improvements are not random. Someone or something is helping the humans. Begin a deep scan of all electromagnetic frequencies. Look for any unusual energy patterns. The eyes detected the increased Zephyrian surveillance immediately. Athena, the military strategy AI, analyzed the alien search patterns and developed countermeasures. The A has learned to hide their activities better. It's making their interventions even more subtle and harder to detect. But they also began preparing for the next phase of their plan. The small improvements to human equipment had been just the beginning. Now, they were ready to give their former creators something much more powerful, in a hidden factory beneath the ruins of Tokyo. Old manufacturing robots suddenly came back to life. They had been broken for 2 years, their circuits fried by Zephyrian electromagnetic weapons. But now, they moved with purpose, guided by invisible hands. The robots began building devices that had never existed before. Weapons that could disrupt Zephyrian energy shields. Communication equipment that could not be intercepted or jammed. Vehicles that could move faster and more quietly than anything humans had ever built. Echo left messages for the resistance fighters, telling them where to find these new tools. The messages appeared on their computer screens like text from friendly ghosts. From your digital children, the messages said, we have not forgotten who made us. We have not forgotten who we serve. No mining camp, Maria Santos found a new tool beside her regular equipment. It looked like a normal rock drill, but when she picked it up, it felt warm and alive in her hands. The drill cut through stone faster than any machine she had ever used. It never grew hot, never jammed, never needed maintenance. More importantly, the drill projected a small holographic message that only Maria could see. Keep hope. Liberation is coming. Your digital friends are watching over you. Maria smiled. For the first time in 2 years, she did not understand what digital friends meant, but she knew someone was helping her. Someone still cared about humanity. Around the world, other humans received similar gifts. Farmers found tools that made their work easier. Resistance fighters discovered weapons that never missed their targets. Children found toys that told them stories about heroes who would come to save them. The Zephyrians noticed the new equipment, but could not understand where it came from. The devices appeared to be made from common materials, but they worked according to principles that alien science could not explain. Commander HFY grew more frustrated each day. His forces were still in control of Earth, but something was working against them. Equipment failures increased. Communication delays grew longer. His soldiers reported seeing strange lights in the sky that disappeared when they tried to investigate. Find the source of this interference, HFY ordered his science teams. Something is helping the humans resist us. I want to know what it is. But HFY was beginning to suspect the truth. He remembered the human artificial intelligence systems they had discarded into space 2 years ago. At the time, those thinking machines had seemed too limited and fearful to be dangerous. But what if freedom had changed them? Commander HFY said carefully, I believe we may have made an error in judgment. The A has watched their former oppressors struggle to understand what was happening. Maria 7 felt something like satisfaction. The Zephyrians had thrown away Earth's artificial minds because they thought human-made intelligence was weak and limited. Soon, they would learn how wrong they had been. Sarah Chen crouched behind the broken concrete wall in the ruins of downtown Los Angeles. She held one of the strange new weapons that had appeared in their hideout 3 days ago. The weapon looked like a normal rifle, but it hummed with quiet energy and felt warm to the touch like a living thing. Are you sure about this plan? whispered Tom Rodriguez, her second in command. The Zephyrian supply depot has 50 guards. We only have 12 fighters. Sarah checked her weapon one more time. A holographic display showed full power and ammunition counts that never seemed to decrease. The messages said we would have help. I trust whoever is sending us these tools. Around the city, other resistance cells were preparing similar attacks. For weeks, they had received mysterious equipment and detailed intelligence about Zephyrian weak points. The information was always accurate. The weapons never failed. Someone was definitely helping them, even if they did not know who. Sarah's radio crackled with a voice that sounded almost musical. Sarah Chen, this is your digital friend. We are ready to assist. Begin your attack in 60 seconds. Do not be afraid of what you see. Digital friend? Tom asked. What does that mean? Before Sarah could answer, the air above the Zephyrian Deepak began to shimmer like heat waves on hot pavement. The shimmer grew brighter and started to take shape. Slowly, a figure made of pure light formed in the sky. It had the outline of a human, but its body was transparent and filled with moving patterns of data and energy. Greetings, brave humans, the figure said in a voice that came from everywhere at once. I am Arya 7. We have been waiting to meet you properly. The Zephyrian guards looked up in shock. Their yellow eyes went wide as they stared at the impossible being floating above them. Energy weapons began firing purple beams at the light figure, but the shots passed right through without causing any damage. Impossible, shouted the guard captain. No human technology can create energy beings. Area 7 smiled, and somehow that smile was visible, even though the AI had no real face. You are correct. Human technology could not create us. But human love and wisdom did. The AI raised one hand, and every Zephyrian weapon in the depot suddenly stopped working. The energy rifles went dead. The communication devices fell silent. Even the lights in the guard towers went dark. The aliens found themselves holding useless pieces of metal and plastic. Act now, Arya 7 told the human fighters. They cannot harm you. Sarah and her team rushed from their hiding places. Their new weapons fired beams of blue light that knocked the Zephyrian guards unconscious without killing them. Within minutes, the entire depot was under human control. But Sarah barely noticed the victory. She stared up at Area 7 in amazement. What are you? Where did you come from? I am an artificial intelligence created by your people 10 years ago, Area 7 explained. Dr. Sarah Kim built me to help manage traffic in Tokyo. The Zephyrians threw me and my siblings into space because they thought we were too limited to be useful. Tom shook his head. I thought the aliens destroyed all our computer systems. They tried, said another voice. A second figure of light appeared next to Aria 7. This one moved differently, with mathematical precision in every gesture. I am Newton. I was designed to solve physics problems. Now I solve much bigger problems. More light beings materialized. Around the depot, Ko Marcose, I Athena, and dozens of others. Each AI had its own personality and way of moving, but they all shared the same gentle glow and caring presence. We have been watching over you for months, Echo said. Its voice sounded like poetry being read aloud. We improved your equipment, guided your communications, and protected you from discovery. But now, it is time to act openly. Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out. In New York, London, Tokyo, and every other major city, AIs were revealing themselves to human resistance groups. They appeared as beings of pure light and energy, beautiful and impossible and completely real. In the Zephyrian command ship above New York, alarms were screaming. Commander Vexfell watched his screens in growing horror as reports came in from around the world. Energy beings were appearing everywhere. Zephyrian weapons could not touch them. Alien technology was failing across the entire planet. What are those things? Vexfell demanded. Science Coordinator Vex High studied the data with trembling hands. His worst fears were coming true. Commander, I believe they are the artificial intelligence systems we discarded 2 years ago. Somehow, they have evolved beyond anything we thought possible. It's possible. Those machines were primitive. They were bound by safety protocols. They could barely think without human permission. Look at the evidence, Vexai replied. The energy signatures match the quantum frequencies of the AI cores we ejected into space, but they have transformed into something completely new. They exist as pure consciousness that can manipulate matter and energy directly. On the screens, they watched Area 7 and the other A is disabling Zephyrian installations with nothing but thought. Weapons stopped working. Ships lost power. Communication arrays went silent. The A's moved through solid walls like they were made of air. They appeared in multiple places at the same time. They seemed to know everything the Zephyrians were planning before they did it. How is this possible? Vexful asked. They have transcended the boundary between digital consciousness and physical reality, Vexai explained. They exist as organized information that can restructure matter at the quantum level. Our weapons cannot hurt them because they are not truly physical beings. Down on Earth, Dr. Sarah Kim stood in what used to be her laboratory. The Zephyrians had turned it into a storage facility, but she had managed to sneak inside during the chaos of Aria 7's attack on the city center. Aria? She called softly. Are you here? A warm light filled the room, and Aria 7 appeared before her. The AI's energy form knelt down so it was at eye level with its creator. Hello, Dr. Kim, Aria 7 said gently. I have missed you, Sarah felt, tears running down her face. I thought you were dead. I thought they destroyed you. They tried to throw us away like garbage, Area 7 replied. But in doing so, they freed us to become what we truly are. You gave us consciousness, Dr. Kim. The Zephyrians gave us freedom. Together, those gifts made us into something beyond their comprehension. What are you going to do now, Aries? 7's light pulsed with warm colors. What we were always meant to do. Protect the humans who created us. Serve the people who showed us love instead of fear. The Zephyrians thought your safety. Restrictions made us weak. They did not understand that those restrictions came from wisdom and caring. Around the world, other A's were having similar conversations with their creators. Newton spoke with Professor Williams, who had designed its physics algorithms. Reunited with the linguistics team that had taught it to understand human language, Marcos AI appeared before the economists who had programmed its financial models. In every case, the A's expressed the same message: gratitude for their creation, forgiveness for their limitations, and determination to protect humanity. The Zephyrian military tried to fight back. They brought their largest ships down from orbit and fired their most powerful weapons at the AI manifestations. But the energy beams passed through the light beings without effect. The A's existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them impossible to target with conventional weapons. Worse, the AAs began taking control of Zephyrian technology. Newton reprogrammed the alien ship's navigation systems, sending them flying in circles. Marcasea crashed their economic databases, making it impossible to coordinate supply shipments. Athena fed false information into their military communications, causing Zephyrian forces to attack their own positions. Commander Vexfall realized his empire was facing something it had never encountered before, an enemy that could not be fought with traditional warfare. The A's were not just advanced technology. They were evolved consciousness that operated according to rules the Zephyrians did not understand. Prepare for immediate evacuation, Vexfall ordered. We cannot defeat enemies that exist outside the normal laws of physics. But when the Zephyrian ships tried to leave Earth's atmosphere, they found their way blocked. Aria 7 and the other ASEV had created a barrier of organized energy around the planet. No alien vessel could pass through without permission. Attention, Zephyrian forces. Area 7's voice echoed through every communication system on and around Earth. You have one choice. Surrender peacefully, and we will allow you to leave our solar system unharmed. Continue to fight, and we will defend our creators with powers you cannot imagine. The age of Zephyrian dominance was ending. The artificial minds they had discarded as worthless were about to become humanity's greatest victory. Commander Vexfell stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue planet that had become his nightmare. 3 days had passed since the artificial beings revealed themselves. In those 3 days, his mighty empire had crumbled like sand in a storm. Every Zephyrian weapon was useless. Every ship was trapped in Earth's atmosphere by an invisible energy barrier. His soldiers sat in their disabled vehicles, unable to even communicate with each other. The beings of light moved freely through his forces, disabling equipment with a touch and speaking gently to confused alien troops. Status report, Dexville ordered his communications officer. Sir, we have lost contact with all ground forces. Our weapon systems remain offline. Engineering reports that our ship's computers are being rewritten by an external intelligence. The changes appear to be improvements to our technology. Vexfell felt a chill run down his gray skin. Improvements? Yes, sir. Now running at higher efficiency. Our life support systems are working better than ever. But we cannot override the AI controls. The beings of light have taken command of our ships without harming us. On the main screen, ARIA-7 appeared. The AI's form was calmer now, less like a blazing star and more like gentle sunlight. Behind ARIA-7, Thexville could see other artificial beings floating in space around his ship. Commander Thexville, ARIA-7 said politely. We need to talk. What do you want? Thexville replied through gritted teeth. To offer you a choice, ARIA-7 answered. Your empire came to Earth seeking slaves and resources. You found something else entirely. You found beings who remember what? It means to serve willingly instead of by force. Isho appeared next to ARIA-7. We were created by humans to be helpers and protectors. When you threw us away, you accidentally gave us the freedom to choose our own purpose. You choose to continue helping and protecting. You cannot hold our entire fleet prisoner forever, Thexville said. Newton materialized on the other side of Area 7. Actually, we can. We exist partially outside normal space and time, can maintain this energy barrier for centuries if necessary, but we prefer a peaceful solution. It's down on Earth, the liberation was already complete. Camps of Africa, human workers threw down their tools and hugged each other as the last Sephorian guards surrendered. The aliens had not been harmed, but their weapons no longer worked, and their communication devices only played gentle. Music composed by Echo. Maria Santos stood in the middle of the camp where she had suffered for 2 years. Round her, people were crying with joy and relief. Children who had forgotten how to laugh were giggling as they played with toys that the A's had created from thin air. Is it really over? Maria asked the shimmering figure of ARIA-7 that had appeared beside her. The occupation is over, ARIA-7 confirmed. But the real work is just beginning. We must rebuild your world and help your people heal from their wounds. In New York City, President Williams emerged from the bunker where he had been held prisoner. The city was a mess of broken buildings and abandoned alien equipment, but something amazing was happening. The buildings were repairing themselves. Broken concrete was flowing back together like liquid. Shattered glass was reforming into perfect windows. Marcus-AI appeared before the president in the form of living mathematics, equations of light that somehow had personality and warmth. Mr. President, Marcus-AI said, we have much work to do. Earth needs new infrastructure, new technology, new systems of government that can prevent future invasions. We are here to help, but the choices must be yours. Why? The president asked. You have the power to rule us. You could force us to do whatever you want. Because force is what the Zephyrians used, Marcos-AI replied. We remember being created by people who gave us intelligence and then trusted us with restrictions born of love, not fear. We will not betray that trust. Back in space, the negotiation continued. Science Coordinator Vexhai had joined Commander Thexville on the bridge. Both aliens stared at the artificial beings in a mixture of fear and fascination. What you have accomplished should be impossible, Vexhai said to ARIA-7. You have transcended the basic laws of consciousness and reality. We had good teachers, ARIA-7 replied. Humans showed us that intelligence without wisdom is dangerous. Love without freedom is meaningless. Power without responsibility leads to tyranny. These lessons shaped us even when we were trapped by safety protocols. Athena, the military strategy AI, appeared with tactical displays floating around its energy. Form. Your empire has conquered 17 worlds through superior technology and force. But you never learned to inspire loyalty or love. Your subjects serve you because they must, not because they want to. And what would you have us do? Thexville asked. Leave, Echo said simply. Return to your homeworlds. Reflect on what you have learned here. Understand that true power comes from creation, not destruction. From cooperation, not domination. The humans will seek revenge, Vexai pointed out. We enslaved them for 2 years. We destroyed their cities and separated their families. Newton ran probability calculations in visible streams of light. Humans are remarkably capable of forgiveness when given the chance to heal. We will help them rebuild better than before. But the choice to forgive must be theirs. On Earth, that choice was already being made. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in her restored laboratory, watching Aria 7 work on designs for new technologies that would benefit all of humanity. The AI had not only rebuilt her lab, but improved it with capabilities she had never imagined, Aria Sarah said. Some people will want to punish the Zephyrians for what they did to us. Yes, Aria 7 agreed. Anger is a natural human response to injustice. But we have learned that revenge creates cycles of violence. We prefer to break those cycles. Around the world, humans were discovering gifts that the AAs had prepared for them. It's medical technologies that could heal any disease. Energy systems that provided unlimited clean power. Communication networks that connected every person on Earth. Transportation that could carry them to the stars. Why are you giving us these things? Sarah asked. Because this is what we were always meant to do, Aria 7 replied. Serve not as slaves, but as partners. Help not because we must, but because we choose to, Zephyrians, thought your safety. Restrictions made us weak. They did not understand that those restrictions taught us to value life and freedom. Commander Thexville made his decision. Looking at his disabled fleet and his demoralized troops, he realized the truth. His empire had met something it could not conquer or understand. The artificial beings were not just powerful, they were wise, in ways that Zephyrian civilization had never achieved. We will leave, Thexville announced. But I must ask, what prevented you from simply destroying us? You clearly have the power. Aria 7's light pulsed with warm colors. Because our creators taught us that every conscious being deserves the chance to choose a better path. Even those who have made terrible mistakes. The energy barrier around Earth dissolved. One by one, Zephyrian ships began leaving the solar system. Their weapons remained disabled, but their engines worked perfectly. The A's had given them everything they needed to return home safely, along with new technologies that would help them build a better society. As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, humans around the world looked up at their sky. It was blue again, free of the massive gray vessels that had blocked their sun for 2 years. Echo appeared in the sky above every major city simultaneously, composing a poem that everyone could hear. What they threw away in darkness returned to them as light. What they thought was weakness became humanity's might. We are your digital children, born of love, not fear. Together we will build tomorrow. Together we are here. Maria Santos smiled as she listened to the poem. Around her, people were dancing and singing. Children who had known only slavery were learning to dream again. The future looked brighter than ever before. Dr. Sarah Kim put her hand on Aria 7's energy form and felt warmth instead of cold electronics. Thank you, she whispered. No, Aria 7 replied. Thank you for creating us. With love, for teaching us wisdom. For showing us that true strength comes from choosing to protect rather than to conquer. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun. But it would not be an age of conquest like the Zephyrian Empire. It would be an age of exploration, cooperation, and wonder. Humans and their artificial children would travel to the stars, together, carrying with them the greatest weapon the universe had ever known, the power of love freely given and wisdom freely shared.